Just a heads up, this video will have spoilers for Hollow Knight Silksong. Despite being a simple to follow story, the game is still fairly new, and after such a long wait for it, I figured I'd give folks that still want to play it blind a courtesy warning just in case. Princess of the Dying Kingdom of Hollow Nest and daughter of the Weavers, Hornet from the Hollow Knight series. A very long time ago, the Pale King of Hollow Nest needed guardians, dreamers, in order to close the Temple of the Black Egg. This was required to seal the Hollow Knight, in turn sealing the Radiance, the higher being responsible for the infection that plagued Hollow Nest. Monoman the Teacher and Lurien the Watcher were both more than willing to partake in this task, but Hera the Beast, the Queen of Spiders who opposed the Pale King's rule, would only do so under one condition: if the Pale King would have a child with her. The child born from this bargain would come to be known as Hornet. Half worm, half spider, and trained by the Queen of Bees, she would become the Princess Protector of Hollow Nest, guarding its seals until one of her own siblings would eventually put an end to the infection. Sometime later, she found herself kidnapped and taken to the kingdom of Farloom, homeland of her mother and the Weavers, where she would find herself wielding her blade once again for the sake of this kingdom's future. Hornet is a very old and hardened soul with many years of combat experience. But will that be enough if she were ever thrusted into the world of Super Smash Bros? Let's find out. So getting right into things, I see Hornet as a below average mid-weight fighter. She'd have 2 jumps using her Fey Down cloak for her double jump, and she would have access to all 3 movement options, making her a formidable fighter. Now, some might ask how such a supposedly formidable fighter can be captured and kidnapped so easily. Well, I'll tell you how. She spent so much downtime on the internet watching Hollow Knight lore videos while waiting for her game to come out that she accidentally doxed herself, leading the Citadel bug straight to her. Something easily avoidable if only she had NordVPN, the internet's fastest and most reliable 24-hour protection. It keeps you safe from all online threats, completely hiding your IP address and encrypting your internet traffic, making it impossible for anyone to track your location. I bet Hornet was mauling over not having it during her long, boring journey to Farloom. She couldn't even stream any of her favorite shows on her phone, since Farloom blocks most of the good ones. Well, if she had NordVPN, that also wouldn't have been a problem, as you can use any of Nord's protective servers across the world, allowing you to even stream shows that may be blocked in your area, but not in others. And with Nord, one account gives you access to these servers on up to 10 devices, so Hornet could have had it on both her computer and her phone. So don't make the same mistake as Hornet. Get yourself protected with NordVPN, and if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, you have 30 days for a money-back guarantee. You can scan the QR code on screen, click the link in the description, or the link in the pinned comment to get started today. A big thank you to the folks at NordVPN, and now that Hornet is in Farloom against her will, on to the moveset. Hornet for this moveset will be reflecting her playstyle in Silksong. She does have 2 boss fights in the first Hollow Knight game, but all attacks that she uses there also appear in Silksong. And Silksong is way more high-paced than Hollow Knight, with Hornet herself being much faster and way more acrobatic than her little sibling. But they do share many similarities aside from just a father. Both bugs rely on building and expending resources through combat in order to pull off stronger options. The Knight used Soul, but Hornet uses naturally made silk from within her shell. Many of Hornet's attacks, mainly her basic attacks, will build up silk strands in small increments, and a small portion of her other attacks, i.e. her powerful special attacks, will cost silk. So if you want to keep a steady flow of Hornet's strongest options, you need to keep on an aggressive playstyle with her basic attacks as well. Being a player that only cares about the B button is an active detriment. It should be noted that each successful strike can only add silk once per use. Even if one attack hits multiple foes at the same time, it's not able to stack. For the sake of balancing, I am going to remain vague and not give any specific numbers when it comes to how much silk each attack gains and spends, and I'm also not going to bother giving a number for a maximum amount of silk in her spool that Hornet can hold. That's all information required for a final build, and these moveset videos are meant to be hypothetical concepts at most. Just to know that everything here assumes that there are final numbers that are best suited for what's most balanced. I found it kinda strange that Hornet was named, well, Hornet when she's a worm-spider hybrid, but it made more sense when I found out that she was personally trained in the way of the blade by the Hive Queen Vespa. Makes me wonder if Hornet is her actual name or more of a warrior's title kind of thing. Regardless, through her training, she's certainly learned how to sting like a hornet, and she does so with her weapon of choice, a sewing needle, perfect for slicing, stabbing, and, well, sewing, combining it with her own silk to both create and destroy. Though her jab will just focus on slicing. Recreating her usual basic attack in Silksong, she can have a 2-hit semi-spammable jab where she swipes her needle forward back and forth for each hit. The first hit of the jab deals hit stun, the second will launch foes, and both strikes add the smallest amount possible of silk back to her spool. Her dash attack can be her swift stab, where, after a bit of startup, she lunges forward out of her dash for a stinging attack. And this also happens to be an attack that she had as a boss back in Hollow Knight. The unique thing about this dash attack is that if it lands, Hornet will automatically bounce upward into the air, allowing her to easily follow up with aerial attacks or simply disengage if need be. Downside though is that this attack can lead her wide open if you're not careful. Between the startup, the end lag, and if you hit a shield, you really only want to use this if you know that you'll get value from it. But that value can be well worth it, especially since it grants Hornet more silk than usual to her spool compared to most of her other non-smash basic attacks. Her side tilt can be her basic needle attack again, but with the long claw tool equipped, which extended the reach of Hornet's needle attacks in-game. Here, it's sort of like the first hit of her jab, but it has more reach, power, and grants more silk when it hits, but it is slightly slower. It adds around the same amount of silk as both hits of the jab, if not the same amount. The up tilt can be her overhead needle attack, a simple slice above herself from front to back that can add around the same amount of silk back to her spool as a hit from her jab, if not a little more. And her down tilt, an innovated attack, can have her thread the needle as she stabs her needle forward low to the ground while crouching. This move is great for poke pressure, is slightly spammable, and causes a lot of hit stun, though each hit gives around the same silk to the spool as a hit from the jab does. Regardless, common for down tilts, it's a reliable move that I can also see being good as a combo starting tool. For Hornet smash attacks, all of them can be the different forms of the Needle Strike, a technique taught to her by the Pinstress of Blasted Steppes. In Silksong, Hornet can also receive various crests, with each one changing her moveset and playstyle, with her default being the Hunter's Crest, which is the one that all prior moves that I've mentioned up to now come from. Crest changing won't be a factor here, she'll pretty much just stick to her Hunter style, but a few of her attacks will come from the other crests. I bring this up because that's what's going to happen with her Needle Strike smash attacks. Her side smash specifically though will stick to Hunter, using the Hunter's Needle Strike. When released, Hornet automatically swings her needle forward twice with powerful force. The first hit deals hit stun, the second hit launches foes, and both deal a lot of damage while also granting Hornet a lot of silk. More so if both strikes connect. One hit adds maybe a little less than what the dash attack adds, so way more overall if you land both. The up smash can be her Reaper's Needle Strike, a move where she swings her needle overhead in an almost scythe-like motion from back to front. It covers a lot of space and adds slightly more silk than one hit of the side smash, but not nearly as much as landing both hits of the side smash. Then the down smash can be the Witch's Needle Strike, where Hornet spins a single time with her needle held out low to the ground, swinging it from front to back. This smash attack's a bit more intricate, as if you press the attack button while she spins, she'll spin a second time. Then pressing it again during the second spin, she'll spin a final time, able to do up to 3 total spins. Each strike of this move is the same, all not immediately launching foes if it connects, instead sort of paralyzing them in place with hit stun first, then automatically being launched away very soon after once the paralyzing hit stun ends, transitioning into launch hit stun. They'll never be stunned long enough for Hornet to follow up on considering the end lag of the down smash, but they will be stunned just long enough to allow the second and third hits to also land their strikes, resetting the hit stun and only finally launching the foe once Hornet finishes spinning. This can make the down smash very powerful, as it can rack up a lot of damage and allow you to accumulate a lot of silk. In fact, the down smash is probably the attack that can get you the most amount of silk possible if you land it properly. Each strike from front to back does also count as 2 separate hits, so hitting 2 different opponents on both sides of you will each individually add silk. As for how much silk you get, the first spin gives you the most possible, with each strike granting the same as a single hit from the side smash. The second 2 spins, though, give a little bit less than that per hit. Regardless, this can be one of your most useful tools for building silk, if it lands. There is a small amount of startup, and each additional spin you add will increase the end lag of the move. So try not to be too spammy with the spins, because being too predictable with it is just asking for punishment. For the aerials, Hornet's neutral air can be her Sawtooth Circlet, a tool she can get from the 12th Architect to lace the inside of her cloak with hidden blades. Hornet will quickly flare her cloak out, revealing spinning blades that cut laterally around her, which can hit adjacent foes to her left and right at once. This deals very quick multi-hitting damage, and the final launching hit only is what will add a very small amount of silk to the spool if it's successful. Her forward air can be her basic aerial attack in Silksong, where she swings her blade laterally forward. It also adds the smallest amount of silk possible. The back air can be a high to low, slightly angled slice behind herself, coming from her attack while clinging to walls. This one adds a fair amount of silk to the spool, maybe a little less than what the dash attack can. The up air is her basic overhead attack again, looking near identical to her up tilt, just in the air. It even grants the same amount of silk. And the down air can be her needle dive attack, one of her more important tools for platforming, as well as another used in her Hollow Knight boss fight. She does a short-ranged dive diagonally downward, stabbing her needle ahead of the attack. And when I say short-ranged, I mean unlike other falling attacks in Smash, this doesn't go very far at all. It really is a very quick lunge that also happens to propel Hornet down. It'll never spike foes, however, if Hornet does hit someone, or even items, or interactable stage elements, obstacles included, Hornet will bounce into the air, just like with her dash attack. Except since she was already in the air, it just allows her to stay in the air even longer for more follow-ups, potential recovery, and even to dive again if you see something else to bounce off of. But remember that the lunge is very quick, so just like with most things that require a needle, you need to be very precise in how you use this. Otherwise, you could miss or accidentally land somewhere that you don't want to be. Chat knows that's happened to me one too many times. No bueno. Landing it, though, can be very satisfying, rewarding, and each strike grants around the same amount of silk as the side tilt. For this moveset, I'm going to have Hornet grab with her free arm. I'm sure some folks would rather her grab with her needle, but I have other plans for the needle, so just sit tight. She pummels by smacking the foe, just like she does to New when she tried to kiss Hornet. To be fair, New, you should have known that trying to kiss a Hornet would sting. She won't gain any silk from pummeling, but she will gain some from all of her throws, though each can only gain the minimal amount per use. For her forward throw, she could use her Wanderer Needle Strike, jabbing at the foe with a flurry of claw strikes, then strike them with her needle to launch them forward. The back throw can have Hornet ambush the foe, where she leaps above them and twists their neck to toss them backward, just like she did to the Fly Warden after she was kidnapped that second time and thrown in prison. Do note though that the back throw version of this will be way less snappy. The up throw can have Hornet use her Swift Reaper attack, where she does a small backflip while swinging her needle from low to high to strike the foe and launch them into the air. And for her down throw, this can be a reference to her Binding Stab. Throughout the story, she may stab her needle into the forehead of various enemies or corpses in order to bind their powers to her own. For this throw, she simply jumps and stabs her needle down onto the foe's head, also causing a small silk explosion to come out, which overall damages the opponent and knocks them away. Now we're getting into the guts and moss berries of the moveset. As I said before, all of her specials consume silk, but if you're wondering what happens if she tries to use one with no silk, fret not. She actually has 2 specials per button command, a powerful one that consumes silk, and a much weaker version that'll be used instead if you have no silk or not enough to use the special in question. For her silk neutral special, she uses the first silk technique that she learns in Silksong, as well as another move from Hollow Knight, the Silk Spear. This is a move where Hornet covers her needle in silk, throws it straight forwards a far distance, then pulls it back to herself. Silk Spear does not count as a projectile. I repeat, it's not a projectile. Just a very long disjointed move that would even make Min Min blush, but it does use quite a bit of silk to use. It deals a lot of damage and knockback to opponents in its way, deals a ton of shield damage, and even deals sour damage to foes who are in between it and Hornet when she pulls it back. The only downside, quote-unquote, to using it offensively is that Hornet can't move until she has the needle back in her claws, but it moves so fast that that usually won't matter. Now, everything mentioned so far is what happens if you just tap the button. If you hold it down, instead of pulling the needle back to herself, she pulls herself to the needle, recreating the claw line technique. This also causes the needle to stop prematurely if it hits a foe while you're holding the button down, allowing Hornet to move directly toward the opponent and automatically bounce into the air when it connects. If the opponent shields the needle though, Hornet won't bounce and will just be left open for punishment. But if you can predict the shield and fake them out with a silk spear instead, then that heavy shield damage that it can do will punish them instead. It's all about the mind games here. And it is pretty easy to do since Hornet will only ever use Claw Line if you keep holding the button down all the way up to the point where Hornet starts to move towards her needle. If you ever let go of the button before she begins to move, she will just use Silk Spear instead. Now, whether you're using Silk Spear or Claw Line, both can be used for general recovery, because if the needle hits a solid part of the stage or a ledge, it will stick, and Hornet will automatically pull herself to that spot for a tether. Also, regardless of which one you use, it always costs the same amount of silk. But if you don't have enough silk to use them at all, she'll instead resort to her straight pins, a weak tool that Hornet can throw forward. They deal small flinching damage, are sort of spammable but not reliably so, disappear upon hitting anything, otherwise only fly a set distance before disappearing, fly about the same distance that the Silk Spear flies, and they do count as projectiles. Now for Hornet's Silk Side Special, she can use Sharp Dart. This has Hornet dash forward a pretty far distance while enveloped in silk light. While dashing, she pierces through everything and is invincible. It cannot be interrupted, and opponents in her way will take damage and be knocked aside. She will also not go into free fall after using this, however, when it's used, it has a bit of personal cooldown, so you can't use it for a second or two afterward, even if you have enough silk for another one. What you can do out of it is literally anything else. Attack, dodge, use another special, do your taxes, get a VPN to protect your internet, anything except use Sharp Dart again until that cooldown is gone. If you do try using it again too soon, or if you simply don't have enough silk to use it, she'll instead use her silkless side special, Swift Step. This is a nerfed version of Sharp Dart in every way. It doesn't go nearly as far, is still vulnerable, and has no offensive capabilities. There is also a bit of end lag when used in the air, so while she still won't go into free fall, it's still not spammable. Now, whether you use Sharp Dart or Swift Step, if used on the ground and if you keep holding into the direction you dashed into, Hornet will break into a faster run than her normal running speed. You can turn while running to keep it going, but using other actions will cancel the enhanced run. If you cancel it into your dash attack, however, the Swift Stab will have less start lag and hit slightly harder. Jumping out of it also increases her jump height and distance. And as a fun added bonus, if you use Swift Step specifically backward and keep holding into that direction, she'll dash backward and start crawling backward at the same speed as her enhanced run, recreating the hilarious Scuttle Brace tool. While funny, it is by all accounts still a nerfed version though, since the only attacks you can use out of this are your down tilt without turning or your down smash with proper input during the scuttle. And as awesome as it would be, she cannot scuttle up walls like she can in her game. Running into a wall at all cancels it. For Hornet's Silk Up special, she reaches heights no Hornet/Worm/Spider has ever seen before with the Silk Soar technique. After a bit of startup, Hornet throws her needle straight up into the air, and once it reaches the upper blast zone, it latches onto whatever's up there, and Hornet will pull herself toward it, flying straight up into the air as high as she can possibly go. It'll always bring her to the top. Don't worry though, you don't need to always go straight to the upper blast zone. That's pretty dangerous after all. While rising, you can cancel it by pressing the special button again, which will make Hornet pull the needle back to her position and can then move from that spot, allowing for optimal positional recovery and even for edge guarding. Silk Soar will never put Hornet into free fall, but as expected, she will need to touch the stage or get attacks before she can use it again in the air. Now, if the rising needle gets too close to a ledge, it will automatically latch to said ledge, and Hornet will quickly pull herself to that, giving you another, probably safer option for recovery. If the needle hits an opponent, however, it'll latch to them, and Hornet will pull herself to said opponent, then bounce off of them into the air while slightly propelling them downward. But it's not like Violet's Spike. It shoots them down a weak set distance regardless of their damage. It's mainly meant for disruption, potential recovery, or even to close in on aerial opponents to apply pressure and start combos. Lastly, if the needle hits a ceiling, Hornet will pull herself to that and stick to it for a bit before falling. The needle also completely ignores platforms. It can only latch to solid parts of the stage. Now for the Silkless Up special, she'll instead use her Drifter's Cloak, catching a random updraft that appears under her and uses her cloak to launch herself a decent height into the air. This deals no damage, but the updraft can also push foes upward, and after Hornet reaches her max height, she'll automatically flare her cloak out like a parasol and start slowly gliding down, with Hornet being able to move left and right while doing so. You can cancel the glide at any point by holding down to fastfall, dodging, or using any attack except for up special, but doing any of these will force Hornet into freefall afterward. And while in theory you could use Silk Spear or Sharp Dart to recover, if you were using Drifter's Cloak in the first place, you were probably already low on Silk, and I do think that Silk Soar should cost less than the other Silk specials. You do have one out, however. If you can land your down air out of the glide and get a successful bounce off of it, that'll cancel the free fall and give you more options for fight or flight. If fight's more your style though, then this down special is for you. As a resident sortie, she uses a counter attack. Nope, I'm kidding, don't worry, I'm kidding. Sort of. She does actually have a counter in both Silksong and Hollow Knight, so it is another one of her consistent attacks, and it felt wrong to leave it out. But I also have something else that I'd like to use for her down special. So instead of down special, Hornet's counter will be attached to her parry. After a successful parry, pressing the special button before the parry ends while you have Silk will consume some and have her retaliate with Cross Stitch. She stabs back and forth, hitting any enemy too close to her, racking up a lot of damage and launching them away afterward. Okay, with that out of the way. For Hornet's Silk Down special, she uses another move from both Hollow Knight and Silksong, Thread Storm. While being probably the simplest of her Silk specials, it's the most dangerous and versatile, so as such, it also costs the most to use. After a small windup, she casts her needle in a high-speed whirl of silk all around her body, dealing multi-hitting lashing damage that launches foes away at the end of the attack. It deals a ton of damage and knockback, covers a huge radius, and while it doesn't do a lot of shield damage, it does do a lot of shield stun. So even if opponents block it, they're still not safe from follow-ups. It also lasts an uncomfortable amount of time for opponents, so dodging it may not help either. They just need to hope that they're far enough away from it entirely when it activates. Plus, it's really hard to beat out, as Hornet is literally surrounding herself in a storm of silk. So it nullifies all projectiles, disjointed attacks will just clang, and anything else will get punished. Plus, once Hornet starts it, she will not stop until it's over. So even if you clang with it, that won't stop it either. You may just get punished anyway. So I would think your best bet for dealing with a move like this is to bait it out. Trick the Hornet player into using it, then go in for the punish once it's over. Of course, if she still has enough silk to use another one right afterward, be wary of that. It would overall become a mind game between Hornet and her foes. For balancing, I could see a special like this consuming enough silk to only allow for 2 uses in a row, even if you had a full spool. The silk consumption is its biggest weakness, as if you're too reliant or trigger happy with it, you may be lacking in enough silk to reliably use her other specials. So despite how strong it is, you really only want to use it when you know you'll get value out of it. Just like with most of her other attacks in this moveset, honestly, it's a game of survival after all. But that doesn't mean that Hornet is out of a reliable down special most of the time, far from it. Because if she doesn't have enough silk to use Threadstorm, which probably will be most of the time, she'll instead rely on her final tool, the Sting Shard. The final attack in this moveset that was also in Hollow Knight, Hornet will throw forward a spiny trap that, after flying a set distance or once it hits the stage, will be suspended in the air by thread. When it's suspended, that's when it goes active. It cannot be interacted with until after it does so. Once active, if an opponent touches it, whether on accident or if they attack it with a move that still has them physically touch it, in other words, if their hurt box touches it at all, it springs and releases a bunch of spines that throb into all directions, dealing multi-hitting damage and popping caught foes away. If the trap is hit by a disjointed move, projectile, or the like, then it'll just break, so characters with weapons will have an easier time against these. If Hornet herself attacks it, or if it sits idle for too long, then the spines will just shoot into all directions, dealing small flinching damage to any foes in their path. Hornet's only able to have up to 2 of these traps active at a time, creating a third will just break the first one without springing it. So ironically, despite Threadstorm being objectively more powerful, the Sting Shards are a lot more versatile and more consistent, being good for edge guarding, controlling space, and even to follow up on if Hornet is quick enough. Overall though, it's up to you on how to utilize Hornet's kit. Do you preserve as much silk as you can? Do you go hyper aggressive and hog louse wild and use everything all at once? Or do you find a good balance and sprinkle in silk attacks while recharging it in between? No matter what you choose, just be smart, adapt to any circumstance, fight for your survival, and this Princess Protector will not let you down. For Hornet's final smash! She uses the Silk technique given to her after defeating and binding with the power of the first sinner, Rune Rage. When activated, Hornet will begin sowing a ton of runes that appear all over the screen one after another for 5 seconds. Most runes will appear in random spots, but the rest will actively track the location of opponents, appearing right over where they are. And after a quick startup, each rune will individually explode, dealing big damage to any foe underneath one when it does so. Thanks to that startup, opponents can dodge them, however the explosions do have collateral damage that spreads outward from their spot, which deals sour damage to opponents too close. That may not seem bad until you realize that runes are still appearing all around and on top of you, so all it takes is one mistake for things to snowball, or in this case, web ball, out of control, knocking you between explosions until you're finally launched into the blast zone. It is possible to survive, but good luck. And if you're having trouble with it, as Hornet would say, get good. For colors, Hornet's default is her usual red cloak, the one we've seen her don from the very beginning. Her first alt can be a black cloak. This can reference whenever Hornet gets hit by a void-possessed enemy, as her cloak turns black for a bit when it does. But, speaking of void, it can also let her match her young sibling, the Knight. Her next color can be a white cloak, referencing the choir cloaks of the Citadel bugs, and even others like Lace or the White Lady herself. Here's an orange cloak, which could reference characters like Chakra, Pinmaster Pliny, her mentor Hive Queen Vespa, and even the Infection in the first game. Next is a dullish brown cloak, to match the common attire worn by many bug pilgrims in Farloom, and even the cloak of the chapel maid that she meets at the beginning of the game. Here's a green cloak, which also matches various bugs in green like Garmond, the Couriers, the Green Prince, and so on. Here's a blue cloak, which matches the Pinstress who taught Hornet the Needle Strike, as well as various other bugs donned in blue. And finally, here's a purple cloak, which really only references one character, the charismatic performer Trobio, though specifically when you rematch him as Tormented Trobio. He is very tormented. Hopefully what isn't so tormenting is picking a color, so tell me, if these were the options, which one would you use? For Hornet's stage intro, at first you see a pile of bells on the ground until the Bell Beast emerges from them with Hornet on its back. She swiftly jumps into her starting position as the beast burrows back down. For taunts, her first can have Hornet pull out a map and look at it. You can hold the taunt button down to have her keep looking at it and can even slowly walk around as she does so. Just watch where you're going. Oh! I walked into that guy because I was too busy looking at the map. Her second has her take on a battle-ready stance while a light thread surrounds her, and she yells out, "Karama!" Which is what she yells out every time she challenges somebody to a fight. So she's pretty much telling you to bring it on. Oh, and that thread deals small non-hit stun damage to opponents too close to it. It does that in the game for some weird reason, so I'm adding it here just to be mean. And her final taunt can have her play the needle in, playing music on her needle like a harp with silk string. Look guys, it's the Silksong! She'll keep playing music so long as the taunt button is held down, and you can even change what music she plays by holding the control stick into a direction while playing. Holding up has her play the Beastling Call, which will eventually cause a Bell Beast baby to appear from the ground by Hornet, which automatically ends the taunt as Hornet looks down at the beast burrowing away. Holding down, though, has her play the Elegy of the Deep, a song taught by snail shamans to allow Hornet to enter people's memories. She won't do that here, though. It's just a song. I'm not sure if Hornet wants to know about the depraved thoughts about her foes anyway. But what we do want to know about is Hornet's victory animations. Her first can have Hornet bind, showing her hold her needle in front of herself as a storm of thread circles her, then explodes around Hornet. Then she lands with a pose. This is what she does whenever she receives new silk powers, though normally it ends with her passing out, but that's not nearly as impressive as a cool pose. Speaking of cool poses, her second Vic just shows Hornet looking away from the screen into the sky. Then as the camera pans to her, she slowly turns her head and just stares at the screen with that stoic pose. I got this idea from the Embrace the Void ending from the first game, using shots from that scene as a fitting stoicism Vic for Hornet. And her final victory animation can have Hornet slowly walk up to a bench and sit on it. Because there is no greater feeling of victory in Hollow Knight than finding a bench. I mean, unless the benches were booby-trapped. Thank you for that, Team Cherry. You guys are very mean, and I hate you. And that does it for What If Hornet Was in Smash? Now, I'd like to give a huge shout out to my Tier 3 and 4 channel members. A big thank you to Your Everyday Ray, Brightly, Mr. Maniac, Gerardo Restero, The Norphin Only, Michael the Aura Wizard, Nether T Hedgehog, Crystalore, Isaac Smith, John Yakuza, J Space City, Chloe, Chicken Blade, Rapper Gamer 3.0, The Chess War, Jam Pack Journey, Jamie Bradley, White Oak 019, DJ Chiro, Rika White Rose 662, Whirlpool 730, Rhinostic Rock Bullet, and BC Omics. If you want to support the show as well, you can also become a member of my channel. And depending on the tier you join, you get a fun variety of rewards, including getting your name listed in my videos, even shouted out, and also getting your own BrawlFan1 head icon personally made by me to you. You get access to channel emotes, entry to my Discord server where you could also join my voice calls whenever I stream games, and even access to member-exclusive live streams where I build popular character movesets in real time, just like I did for Hornet here. In fact, starting today, I'm going to start uploading VODs of my entire live blind playthrough of Hollow Knight Silksong onto my BrawlFan VOD channel. So if you want to watch that entire playthrough of me suffering through that game, be my guest. It was certainly an experience to say the least. Anyway, on a more positive note, if you're willing to become a Tier 4 member for a combined year, I'll make a moveset and a video of your personal pick. Of course, if you simply enjoy this content and don't want to miss out on more, be sure to like and subscribe. And when you comment, tell me what character you'd like to see be given a possible Smash moveset. And while you're at it, feel free to give me any feedback about Hornet's moveset and share your own ideas about her as well. I'd love to hear them. So, I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching!